What's going on, guys? Danny here from Metal Couch, and the holidays are quickly approaching. I mean, Christmas is 12 days away. People are scrambling at the last minute to get Christmas gifts, killing each other for waffle irons, Xbox Ones, and random deals on socks and underwear. So much to the point that it makes me want to listen to metal albums and review them for the next 12 days straight. And what a way to kick off 12 days of Christmas with Faustcovens' Hellfire and Funeral Bells. Now, this album was originally submitted to me for Metal March of 2013. That's how long that this album has sat on my computer, unattended, unlistened. Well, not technically unlistened. I've heard a few songs off of this album on and off over the past almost 2 years now, thanks to friend of the show Vince. This is an album that he frequently plays in his car, and I've always heard bits and pieces of it since it was recommended to me. But now, having sat down and listened to this, in my opinion, glorious piece of metal, we're going to get right down into it. So, going through the track listing, you open up with the title track, Hellfire and Funeral Bells, which is an 8-minute long opening song telling you exactly what Faustcoven is all about. This is a perfect blend between black and doom metal. I can't honestly believe it's taken me this long to listen to this album. After listening to this track, you will immediately know whether or not you are going to like this band or this album. I've never been one to really enjoy the stereotypical production of black metal, and having listened to this song, it's not the worst piece of production that I've heard from a black metal album, but at the same time there are a few things here and there where it's kind of distorted. The drums are, the levels aren't exactly where they should be in terms of a clean production, but the production of this album didn't really bother me too much. That became apparent with the title track Hellfire and Funeral Bells. Then we move into Convent of Earthly Delights, probably one of my highlights off of the album. This is just a really, really good 7.5-minute long song, and you've probably noticed that just with these first two tracks alone, they're almost 16 minutes long. Every single one of these tracks is not under 4 minutes. I mean, you're going to get, like, for example, we close out the album with a 10.5-minute long song, which I'll get to in a little bit. But the runtime of some of these songs, while it may seem daunting on paper, is suitable enough. The music is diverse enough that it does not bore me like some black metal albums would. Then we get Lost in the Forest of Suicide and When the Wolves Howl for Blood. Now, Lost in the Forest of Suicide I found to be a track that wasn't necessarily too interesting, but then was quickly remedied with my favorite track off of this album, When the Wolves Howl for Blood. This is an amazing song, and I highly recommend it. Definitely, like the opening track, tells you what this band is all about. Then we get probably the weakest track on this album. It's the only track that I did not like, and that is Dr. Carswell, which frequently uses sampling from a source that I'm not exactly sure where it's from, but it's just not that interesting when you add these samples into the song, and I think that the samples actually take away from the music. But again, just a small little nitpick. Then we close out the album with the 10.5-minute epic, Choir of Mentors. This is probably one of the best, and I'm probably going to get crucified for saying this, probably one of the best black metal songs I've ever heard. And I can already hear friend of the show Vince screaming at the monitor right now. I love this track. It embodies everything that I think of when I think of extreme metal. And I think that when people think of extreme metal, I think that they think of something like this song. It's not stereotypical, but it's a very great representation of what black metal is. Faustcoven has been a new name to me. I mean, well, not necessarily new, but this is the first piece of work that I've listened to in their entirety. And for two guys operating several instruments, this was a very well-rounded effort. If you look on Metal Archives, there's only one review for this album, and they gave it a 90%. I wouldn't go that high, but I do recommend listening to this album. It was released in 2012. You can't really find it in too many places streaming online, but in any case, I recommend that you buy this album. That's how good it is. If I had to give this album a grade out of 10, I would give it an 8.5, and that's an extremely solid 8.5. I highly recommend listening to this album if you are into black metal or doom metal. It's a nice fusion between the two, and I can't wait to see the future of this group, because this was a damn good album. I highly, highly recommend this one. In fact, if it was released this year, I would probably put it up for Album of the Year, but we'll get to the Album of the Year after Christmas. So, here's to another 11 days of metal, guys. Thank you for watching. Danny here from Metal Couch, signing out.